Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing fantastic. And that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook. There's a link in the description below. I hope everyone's been taking care of themselves. I know a lot is going on right now at the exact same time, and it sometimes feels a bit overwhelming, so don't forget to treat yourself and do something nice. I'm not talking about like go buy a new car, but like, do something that makes you happy this week, because boy howdy. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. A lot of really fairly strongly good news like we've been seeing over the course of the last couple of months. It's actually quite nice, but things continue, as I've been saying, things are continuing to evolve in like a very weird, structured way that I kind of wasn't anticipating, but I guess it's also nice to, be shocked by good things at the exact same time. One of the more popular stories in today's news has to do once again with this idea of not only Bitcoinization, but hyper Bitcoinization. I mentioned multiple other times things are happening a lot faster than I previously assumed that they actually ever would. And I'll say it this way. If things aren't where I expect them to be by December, I'm going to be completely shocked, because this wave of adoption is too fast and too furious at this point. Oklahoma's senator, his name is Dusty Deevers, Deevers, is apparently talking about launching something or enacting something called the Bitcoin Freedom Act, aiming to make Bitcoin a viable payment option for residents and businesses alike. I saw a lot of news about this, and I'm going to try and give you like what I can from what I've read. Apparently, this is meant to be something similar to the like Bitcoin reserve thing that we've been seeing. However, this is kind of meant to be like a sweeping motion, as opposed to, hey, the state is going to accumulate Bitcoin. That's cool for the state. This is apparently meant to be like for everyone in Oklahoma, apparently like complete freedom with Bitcoin within the actual state. It says, with inflation rates rising, the bill seeks to provide a safeguard for Oklahomans, aligning the state with a national trend towards cryptocurrency adoption. We don't and haven't heard much news about Oklahoma pertaining to crypto. Like, I want to say ever. Maybe once we got news like that, but besides that, I don't actually ever remember hearing those words together. He said, Bitcoin has arrived into the mainstream of our economy and is unquestionably part of the financial future, remarked Deevers on social media, emphasizing the bill's importance. I don't know how to really say this. A couple of years ago, there were motions and bills across the U.S. to try and make it legal for people to be able to pay their taxes or anything municipal with Bitcoin, and like it was nearly exclusively Bitcoin. There were a couple that said like crypto in general and yada yada, and this is when Bitcoin was around like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And I said it back then as well. I think a lot of what we saw before when it came to actual like state level or country level Bitcoin adoption had more to do with, I think, these governments and these states figuring out that Bitcoin was going to be a big thing and trying to get people to essentially like sell it to them in some sort of way. That's what I told you all before with like a lot of these companies who were like, hey, you can buy socks with Bitcoin. You can buy this. And it's like, wait a second. Why are you so keen to have my this shouldn't I just be paying in US dollars and actually keeping the Bitcoin? Why do they want to anyway, that's just a thought that kind of was like breezing through my head as we get into this world where Bitcoin becomes more and more adopted. We're going to see more places, not Oklahoma, like I'm just thinking of this, but like in general announcing like, hey, you can pay this, and it's like, no, because if Bitcoin's going to $1 million, why would I get rid of it? If Bitcoin's going to $10 million, why would I get rid of it? Like that kind of thing always enters my head. Senator Devers is introducing the Bitcoin Freedom Act in Oklahoma to promote Bitcoin payments amid inflation concerns and enhance local economic resilience. So it's nice to see something like this pushed forward. I mean, anytime I always say that we hear someone say that Bitcoin's not banned and they're trying to integrate it in some way into the economy, I think it's cool. But whenever it comes to like talking about us paying for things in Bitcoin, and at least this is my mindset, this is how I always feel. I don't think it's going to be feasible for the majority of people to want to pay for anything in Bitcoin or Satoshis until the value is over $1 million versus the US dollar. Because it seems weird to get rid of it now when we all know where it's going to. Like that kind of thing always enters my head. So this was incredibly popular news. I think it's great news. I think it's lovely for adoption, that entire kind of thing. But it's also kind of like, cool. I'm glad that they enact it now so that in the future there's no longer a discussion about it. But I don't think many people are gonna really. And now answer me realistically. And I was going to say the words, if you have Bitcoin. I swear to living goodness, if anyone has been watching this channel and you don't have Bitcoin, I don't understand how you're functioning like at all, because I'd be absolutely terrified because I see what's coming for Bitcoin. Do you have any intention of spending your Bitcoin right now? Like realistically, do you plan on using it when it's at $500,000? Do you plan on using your Bitcoin when it's at $1 million? The general answer for most people, according to surveys and stuff online and on Twitter, people usually say over $1 million because then they'll be spending fractions of fractions. But even then, it feels kind of icky. I don't know. Anyway, that's the Oklahoma is preparing to put forth a bill designated SB 325 to try and enhance Bitcoin usage and Bitcoin freedom within the state. I assume the bill will get passed. If you missed about the last 10 to 15 videos, the other states who are also preparing Bitcoin strategic reserve bills are meant to all begin in January. So, yeah, that's the Oklahoma Bitcoin news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, and this should not come as a shock, and I will tell you also explicitly why. It says the cryptocurrency market is constantly evolving, but some trends reflect a sense of stability amidst the volatility. According to Into the Block, they're one of the on-chain analytical companies, a significant portion of Bitcoin supply, around 30%, 1 in every 3 coins, has remained unmoved for more than 5 years. If you've paid any attention to this channel over the course of the last 5 years, you should know why. It's basically about whale accumulation. In that manner, we've seen that a small number of addresses hold a large amount of Bitcoin. And that's because of an accumulation trend over the last 12 years, somewhere around there, where regardless of any pumps or dumps or sideways movements, there have been people who have continuously collected. And if you continuously buy something and collect something and hoard something, especially back when there were only 14 million Bitcoin. Eventually, at some point over the years, you're going to hold a huge portion of it. There's a lot of news now, and I don't know if it's fear mongering. I honestly don't know. A lot of news now about like people moving around coins, and this is happening with coins. And there was something that I read 2 days ago. I think like someone activated an old wallet and they moved their coins from one wallet address to another. But the tone of the actual article was like, we should be afraid. This is terrible. No one should be moving their Bitcoin. And for those of you who don't know, this is, I mean, without having to elaborate too much, one of the general ideas is that if someone activates an old wallet, it's usually because they regained access to that wallet or found it on an old computer. But a lot of the problem is that if you found your Bitcoin on an old computer from 2013, 2015, 2017, you're not going to leave that money on that computer. You're going to transfer it either onto a ledger or you're going to buy a brand new computer and put it there as well because it's a newer computer. You don't want the old one to clonk out kind of thing. There was also, and as far as I can tell, I wrote about it on Twitter. This was, I mean, days and days and days and days and days ago. Like I said, with the whole fear mongering thing. We've seen a couple of flush outs already within the market. A flush out, for basically, for those of you who don't know, would kind of be Bitcoin's at 70,000, Bitcoin's at 73,000, Bitcoin's at 78,000. People are buying it. Bitcoin's at 81,000. People are buying it. Bitcoin's at 87,000. People are buying it. People's at 91,000. People are buying it. Bitcoin goes to $98,000. People are buying tons of Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes to 106,000 US dollars. Retail has moved back into the market. The next 24 hours, Bitcoin falls back down to $93,000. These are coordinated manipulative moves by whales to basically flush out new people from the market, to erase any longs or shorts that might be over leveraged, and to kind of, if you will, put us back in a balance where like a lot of the new people or anyone who's hyper over leveraged basically gets pushed. I heard something, sorry. Okay. Pushed out of the market. That basically, what it does, as we've seen before, is knock out a bunch of the new people who get into the market and basically allows them to sell their coins to BlackRock, essentially. And this is why you might have noticed in the last like 5 or so weeks, like we're in the bull run. We're in the bull run. It's alt season. The issue is that rich people want all of it. They always want everything. This is why I'm always, for everyone getting into the market and not just all these rich people. So recently, a week or so ago, I don't remember, there was a news story. I didn't go over it because I realized it was, excuse my French here, BS. There was an article talking about that the U.S. had sold off a huge portion of their Bitcoin. Oh, no. It was the U.S. is going to sell off a huge amount of their Bitcoin. I think on they said the 17th, 18th, or 19th of January. It was something along those lines. And then come to find out that those coins had actually already been moved and or sold, I think months ago, like 5, 6, 7 months ago. So people were putting that article out as Bitcoin was moving back up in price, that the U.S. was planning on selling their coins before the new administration bought coins, and then come to find out that was also a lie. That was also just something news that people put out to get everyone else to sell their coins, and it worked because Bitcoin fell back down to $92,000 or $93,000, and then whales scooped all those coins up again. This is why news is important. Like, it's cool, all the whatever, but a lot of times, like when I talk about the other YouTube channels, it's so frustrating because all they're showing you is lines and charts and graphs and where they think things are going to go and this is going to happen and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not talking about anything real that's actually happening or like what's really affecting the actual market. So if you've been here for a long time in this market, you know what things are like. I'm sure drops probably don't even bother you. But the issue is that if Bitcoin goes to $14 million a coin, I would love if another 100 million people could benefit from that as well. But it's very easy to shake people out. It's so easy to shake people out of this market, because the majority of people have no idea what's happening. All they smell is money. It's just desperation. There's no long-term outlook for them. When you hear this, and the rich people are buying and they're holding and they're hoarding, 30% hasn't moved in more than 5 years. That's not talking about the other potentially 20-30% as well that hasn't moved in the last 4.5 years. They're buying all of it up and they're hoarding all of it because they know they where it's going, where the price is going, how high things will be in 10 years, and they want all of it for themselves. It's the same loop over and over and over. It's so sad. It happens with everything, though. It happens with real estate. I mean, you really name it. I told you this was years ago. Years ago. When all these, I mean, first of all, let us be clear. It's still happening now. However, years ago, there was a really big thing when a lot of cities, I mean, in you can name London. Usually a lot of this news was floating around like American places, but they were talking about that a lot of people were like walking up to these homeowners, like directly to their house and knocking on their door and were like, hey, we're like, looking to move into the neighborhood. Are you selling your house at all? And a lot of these people had held on to these houses since the 60s and 70s. They didn't know what the actual worth was. And they were like, maybe I want to. They handed them a card, called these people back, got in contact with them. And some of these people were like, hey, we're willing to give you $125,000 cash, like today. Like we can sign the contract and buy your home. And a lot of people sold. A lot of people across the U.S. sold because a lot of these people had bought these houses, let's be honest, for $3,000, $14,000, $16,000 years and years and years ago. I don't know if you've been seeing these videos on Instagram. They're really weird. These people, like these young guys, walk up to these older people in supermarkets and stuff, and they ask them, how much did you buy your first house for? And this one woman was like, I think I got it for like $7,000. And he was like, what? She was like, it's a 3-bedroom, like 1.5 bathroom. It's absolutely gorgeous, yada, yada, yada. He was like, I can't fathom buying something for that. So if you bought it for all those numbers years ago, somebody offers you $125,000 now, especially if your land tax or your HOA or whatever is going up really high and you're strapped for cash, these people took that money. Come to find out that even back then, they were offering these people $125 in cash. These places were worth $350. $375, $425, but they flushed them out of the market successfully. It was just, like if who else is going to offer you cash right now for these things? And this is also the play that we're seeing here as well. It's so crazy to hear this much adoption and so many of these things going on and hearing, the Bitcoin supply. I don't have to remind everyone, but yeah, more than 30% of the supply has remained unmoved. This data derived from the unspent transaction output age indicator, basically transactions that kind of don't move. So you can see when something has like entered a wallet address, but like it hasn't been sent anywhere else over a course of a period of time. Highlights the growing trend of long-term holding within the Bitcoin community. And then they go and talk about like what it means for the rest of the market. But yeah, of course. No, it's incredibly significant. Approximately 6.3 million Bitcoin is classified as dormant with no movement in over 5 years. Once again, that's just 5+ years. That's not 4 years. That's not 3 years. There's tons of people who are buying all the time. I told you, I've come into contact with investors who are in this market who are buying and they're like, I'm not touching anything. Like I'm just holding it. Like here's the crazy part. These people have so many assets that crypto doesn't even, like, it's on their radar, but like it's nothing that they even have to think about. So they're buying up Bitcoin and crypto and just locking it away to see potentially what it does in like 15 years. Like, think of how insane that actually is. It was something, there was a news story years ago where this guy bought some comic book, and I want to say it was like the first Batman or first Spider-Man. Something happened. They were asking him, they were like, did you, like, were you looking at the comic all the time? Were you thinking about it? And he was like, no, like I had it locked away in the safe. They were like, what? He was like, yeah, like I bought it because I knew where the price would go in the next 10 to 15 years. So, and they were like, oh, okay. Like rich people, like they're in a whole different stratosphere from all of us because I can't conceptualize buying an asset and being like, this means nothing to me. Like, I'm just gonna, like, it's like those, have you ever seen those real estate, those real estate shows where these people buy up these like $3 million, $8 million, $12 million properties, and they're like, I'm not gonna even rent it out. Like, I'm just gonna leave it. That was a big thing. You might have seen it in the news years ago. That was a really big thing in Vancouver, in London. I want to say some parts of Paris, but there were like certain cities where it was really prevalent, where these people were buying these apartments, buying these homes as investments, and they weren't renting them out. Do you know why? Like, can you imagine why? Not only did the English, not only did the rental income mean nothing for them, when you sell it, you can sell it as a brand new place. This was never lived in. No one ever touched it. No one ever breathed in this apartment. And it worked. Some of these, like, the values of these places, like, skyrocketed by normal whatever. But you were able to resell them as a literal brand new apartment. Did you ever see, I'm sorry, I have so many things flowing through my head. There's an old TV show called Extreme Cheapskates. It's from, I want to say 2008, 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. You can find the old episodes on YouTube. Extreme Cheapskates. For those of you who English isn't your first language, a cheapskate is someone who's like, they don't want to spend their money. They keep all the money to themselves. They don't want to give a penny. And there's one episode, I'll never forget it because my jaw dropped. There was an episode where this guy bought a house. And he was walking around the house with the camera people. And the camera people were required to have on like plastic, like sock shoes, like some kind of a protector. And he was saying that he bought this house and he wanted to sell it. So he had an estate agent come to look at the place. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, how long have you been living here? And I think he lived there. She was like, why does it look this way? There was plastic on everything. There was plastic on the carpet. There were plastic on the walls. It was completely insulated. And his idea was, I didn't want anything to be touched in here. So when I sold it, it can be sold as a brand new house. And the estate agent was like, I think you're going to get a really good price for this because nothing in this entire house has been touched. It looked crazy. But he had this idea that like he didn't want any stains, any spills, any tables, any nothing. So it just kind of looked extremely brand new like when he bought it. Got a little bit off course there, but that's what happens when I guess when you have a lot of money. So the amount of Bitcoin being accumulated continues to increase. As Bitcoin's price goes higher, the actual need of even like sending large amounts of Bitcoin will continue to fade. So when Bitcoin hits a couple $1 million per coin, like people will then only really be sending like 0.02 Bitcoin, 0.014 like that. No one will be sending an entire Bitcoin. So I think even more of the supply as we go forward is going to just be unmoved. Isn't that crazy to think about? Yeah. So keep holding on to your precious sats because they are very, very rare. And I can't tell you not to get flushed out of the market, but just understand that these people are doing this on purpose. Really just understand that. They're trying to get you out because they want all of what you have. That's the UTXO news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, several companies are taking advantage of the recent price slump to scoop up Bitcoin. It says before the new year. Nope, that also doesn't make any sense. Genius Group, a company that provides artificial intelligence-based educational solutions to over 5.4 million users in 100 countries. Wow, look at them. Is advancing its Bitcoin-first strategy with new Bitcoin purchases. According to a press release, Genius Group acquired $10 million US in Bitcoin, bringing their total Bitcoin holdings to 319 BTC. This marks the second major acquisition for Genius Group, which committed to implementing, I remember them now, which committed to implementing its Bitcoin accumulation strategy in November, setting an initial goal of they want $120 million invested into Bitcoin. It continues. It's not that it's not fantastic or not something to talk about, but it's also a bit exhausting every single day going over it. I don't know how many of you saw this. Oh gosh, 2 videos ago, there was a video very recently. The entire video was like about 9 different companies who had all been accumulating Bitcoin. It's kind of like really the thing to do now. Everyone's that's very with a capital very, hyped right now for the market and to see where things are going to go. It is not surprising at all that people are buying up large amounts of Bitcoin basically every single day, that Bitcoin supply is not moving. The amount of crypto exchanges continues to dwindle as well. Yeah, I hope that people are paying attention. Have any of you managed to get like any family members or friends into the market? Just not like I'm actually asking because I understand that people who I know have no intention of getting into this market. Like family members, older people, that kind of thing. And I don't know like really what to do. So I've thought before, as I told you, other people are like accumulating crypto for their families. And it seems to kind of like be the trend because I know people who are like 60 and 70, they're these people are not going to figure out what crypto is and they have no interest in actually getting into it. But I do actually have a little anxiety about how much is being accumulated and how little there will actually be left. There was an article floating around on Twitter about it, and I don't know if they were a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't know if they were just insane, but I saw a couple of people like hitting back at the idea that we're early in the market and that like it's basically, how do I say this? Like it's great that we're here early, but the people who were reposting it were like talking about from the vantage point of like, yeah, we're here early so we can take all of it. And it's like, yeah, well, technically, logically, that is true, but I don't want to live in a world where 3,000 people are wealthy and everyone else is poor. Like actually like on the street. Like that just doesn't sound nice to me in any sort of way. I want to live in a world where I have a group of friends, where I have family members, and I'm like, you guys want to go to Jamaica? And we can go for like 2 weeks. And I don't have to worry about like us being the only ones having money because everyone has joined in and, you know, we're all thriving together. But for some reason, there are a lot of people who don't think that. And it's really weird because you notice that they don't even care about the actual idea behind Bitcoin, like being made for everyone in the world. They're just greedy enough to want all of it and everyone else be damned. Excuse my French, but yeah, Genius Group is purchasing more Bitcoin. I hope it works out for them because it's probably going to. A lot of companies we've heard in the last couple of months have been having discussions with their shareholders and their CEOs and ABCs and all these other things, talking about creating Bitcoin reserves. If everything holds up to be true, once again, January, February, and March, we will probably, as far as we know, see about anywhere from 30 to 50 different states and countries and provinces all announcing that they're also buying Bitcoin as well. Like really though, like actually January, February, and March. Think about it. We know that the number for states is over 20. We know all the other, whatever. I'm just rambling at this point. So, cool. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I hope that you all are preparing for the crypto bonanza. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.